How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Blue Shifting. Welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia. So, apparently, I ended pretty close to the end. It sounds like that this is going to be a shorter episode. I hope you'll forgive me. I'll probably, do my normal chatterboxing and won't shut up for a while. So it should be decently long, but I don't really know what else to expect. But come on, we couldn't have stopped before. Like this is the finale. We got to see how this all plays out with here. So yeah, what a journey, huh? I'm excited. And the banjo playing in the background just makes me smile because, again, I think it makes me wonder, like, if this, because in a way, this bluegrass is probably the most American cultural music we've got, really. I mean, I can't really think of anything that's more mainstream that, we've got a lot of great music artists and creators, and a lot of people who are good at music eventually come to America to publish and tour and everything, obviously. But as far as a cultural music, I'm not sure. I think bluegrass is American, or is it a descendant from another place? I just don't know. But yeah, whatever. I actually recommend, if you ever get a chance to go to a bluegrass concert, it's worth it. It's pretty fun. It's not my favorite kind of music, but it's got its own feel, it's got its own rhythm, and it's nice. Anyway, let's jump into it, because now we're here in good old America, in suburbia it looks like, and we're trying to help Dark Michiru, have a final encounter with the parents whom she knew and cared about before she died, and her echo was implanted into Michiru proper. It's kind of like making sure that she doesn't have any major regrets now that Michiru herself is a lot more in control of her life and is going to, try and stand on her own 2 feet from now on, which is fantastic. So, yeah, there's not really much else to say. Let's just jump into it. And, this is 5 minutes. Give me a short episode. If not, hopefully it'll be about as long. But I'm based on what everyone said, this will be the end of the Michiru route. And I'm not going to start a new route tonight. We'll start a new one next week, so let's jump right into it. Yeah, we took the fast track of like a super military charter, I'm guessing, directly to America. That we are. How was that? Blink of an eye, right? It really feels like it's just a shorthand for the writing rather than like an actual legitimate story thing, but whatever.
もうちょっとだけ長かった気もするけど、あっという間だった。
I placed a sales call to your house on the ride over. A woman answered the phone, so they're probably home. Incidentally, they don't seem to have any plans to purchase high-quality carpets at the moment. That is called social engineering. That's getting information out of people by pretending to have a very, nonchalant conversation with them about something and pulling information out of them. Very interesting stuff. If I had no morals, I actually think I'd be pretty good at social engineering because I can think of many ways, and I've witnessed enough about people. I feel like I actually would be able to be approachable and know angles of approach to come to in order to gather the information about people. But I have a moral reason why I wouldn't do that, despite the fact that I probably could do really well. But I digress. Social engineering. It's a great field.
カーペット屋さんのふりをしたの？悪い人。
Yeah. I'd have a bit of a guilty conscience if she'd asked for a free sample or something, but that wasn't how it happened. No harm done, right?
そうだけど。
No, it's pretty bad. Like, you don't do that. Like, you shouldn't. You can, but you shouldn't. I keep up my conversation with Yuji-kun, but most of it goes in one ear and out the other. Interesting that we're getting it from her perspective. Normally we don't read thoughts from her perspective, but that makes sense. I also was gonna say, one of the reasons why I know that this happens is actually because I did a call center job where it was supposedly, polls, because it was an election year and they were doing, polls for the election season. They weren't. It became pretty obvious if you were paying attention to the way that they were phrasing the questions that they were, it was presenting it as a poll, but it was actually planting seeds of information and desired perspectives into the ears of people participating. The questions were slanted not to actually really get information, but to try and impart like tidbits of information, usually slander against a specific party or election candidate. And you would target areas that were, participating in that. So like it was like from the grandiose level of like presidential side of it, but down to the small scale level of like local leadership. And it would be like questions like, so what do you think when you hear about such and such senators illicit, alleged, the allegations of their alleged, what's it called when you have an affair? It's alleged affairs over the last 2 years. Like, that's just trying to tell them slop about somebody. It's not actually trying to gauge their political leanings or trying to gather information. And what was the most insane part of it, and actually it's like, I've said this before, it's the only job I've ever walked out on. It's the only job I flat out quit. I didn't even make it the first 2 weeks because I was getting pretty like annoyed watching the social engineering. I was seeing what was actually happening, and I knew why we were doing what we were doing and how it was being phrased and set up in a way that was totally not accurate at all. But when I got to a question, I'd been doing a certain questionnaire several times to several people with a certain county, and one of the first questions you would ask would be general information like age ranges, like are you in this bracket, and gender and everything. And then you would go on to all these questions about political sightings, Republican, Democrat, type of stuff. But one of the first questions is the demographics. It was asking, like what race do you associate with? And I gave the list like Anglo-Saxon, Latino, African-American, like Tongan, Native American, go down the list. And most of the time it'd be white, Anglo-Saxon, white, potato, same thing really. And then I got to one lady and I was talking to her and she said African American, and I clicked African American, part of this like data coverage, and immediately the questionnaire said to discontinue the call and be done. That's the thing that really ticked me off, was the fact that because the questionnaire would have these things where it would be like if they didn't want to respond or there were certain conditions or they were just not interested, that you would kind of end the call. But to have a call end that was supposedly about gathering information about random people in an area that told me to stop asking questions the instant we found out that the person we were speaking to was black, I could not believe that was something. And there's oh my gosh, if this is actually trying to be a poll, it's a poll that they are purposely skewing the results to get a snapshot and to paint a picture of an area in a way that they wanted it to be represented, aka they didn't want minorities in this mucking up the results. And that was horrifying to me. I on a moral level, I couldn't stand it. And I remember that happened and I finished that call and I took my headset off and I walked into the lot and I said, I can't do this job. And the lady who was the manager was like, what do you mean? I was just like, these questionnaires are just garbage. It's immoral and I won't stand for it. I'm leaving. And she's like, so you're quitting? I was like, absolutely, I'm quitting. I'm never coming back. And she's like, well, you could quit, but we'll blacklist you and you'll never get a job again from this company. I was like, oh, thank goodness for that. And I walked out the door. It was probably the most badass moment of my life, but I was so upset. I didn't even realize how kind of cool it was. I was so mad. Anyway. In one ear, out the other, just like this game. This is the town I grew up in, the street I return to every day. The very smell of the air brings back a flood of memories, and although it's a little dirtier than I remember it, it's definitely my home. We'll be going back in time for dinner. You came this far, so don't hesitate. Get going. I take my sweet time just getting to the porch. After a few hesitant moments, I reach up and put my finger on the doorbell. But I can't bring myself to press it. Minutes slide by as I stand there like a statue. I consider having Yuuji-kun ring the bell in my place, but that would defeat the point of this visit. Even so, the tiny plastic button in front of me looks like some enormous, intimidating gong, the sort of thing you'd hang by the gate to hell. Come on, Dark Michiru, come on! Maybe I can't do this. Maybe I'll just give up and crawl back in failure.
カウント3ね。3。
ちょっとカーペットならいらないって言ったでしょ。
I spin around to find myself face to face with Mom. Wasn't she supposed to be inside the house? Oh, but I guess you can see the front door pretty clearly from the garden. Since I was just standing out here all this time, maybe she thought I was some kind of suspicious character. She used to drive off door-to-door salesmen like this every once in a while when I was a kid, come to think of it. Can't say I expected her to be keeping that up at this age. Amusement, shock, hesitation, and happiness swell up in me all at once, fusing into an undefinable mass of emotion. God, would that be insane? Like, you literally die. And then 6, 8 years later, I don't know. Probably closer to 5 or 6 years. Or even just a couple years, maybe. Just, hey, Mom.
おや、あらあら、ごめんなさい。さっきセールスの電話があったから、そいつかと思っちゃって。
いえ、
こんな場所にお客さんなんて珍しい。さあ、中に入っておくれ。
Oh, we must be in the South. She's super Southern. Like, that's just what someone would do in the South.
いえ、もうここで失礼します。
何か用があってきたんだろう。ほら、いいからおいでよ。
Come on, come on.
はい。
あんた、よく見たら美人さんだね。お母さんに似たのかしら。さあ、早くしないとコヨーテが出るよ。あんたみたいなちっちゃい子はパクリだよ。
Coyotes, huh? Okay. Coyotes are more common in the countryside. More like the west. South of there, you get coyotes, and it looks pretty green. So yeah, I'm thinking South Midwest, maybe?
はい。
Maybe Texas, actually. You get to the coastal parts of Texas, and you kind of get that blend of desert, but also green.
どうせおばちゃんの一人暮らしだからね。遠慮することはないよ。
一人暮らし。
Oh, man. Oh, this would be crazy. Look at that. Look at this place. Mom bustles into the kitchen and makes tea for me. It's her special black blend with honey and ginger. When I was a kid, she really loved this stuff. I remember asking for so many refills that she'd get mad.
いただきます。
おや、どうかしたかい？
いえ、美味しいです、とても。
そう、それはよかったわ。
Aww.
何杯でも飲んでいってね。
Mom smiles at me like a child. The tea definitely isn't bad, but the flavoring's a little too sweet for me now. Are the ingredients different? Does this tongue work differently than mine, or did I just grow up? I'd say yes to all. Everyone has different tastes. It's really interesting. I can't remember exactly the science behind it, but even like our tongues can just have different sensitivity levels, and then you also just get used to stuff. Like I've changed my diet radically over the course of my channel. If you go to my older stuff, you'll see I was a much larger person, much more unhealthy, but much heavier and ate a lot more. I have a much better, more balanced diet now, but it also means that because I don't consume a whole lot of sugar, that sometimes when I do give myself a treat, like I feel ill. Like I'll have like a candy or something, and I'll be like, oh, nope, don't like that. Glancing around the room, I notice how spare and empty it is. A small twinge of something like loneliness strikes me. It's the sort of melancholy you might feel when walking a scrawny old dog on a rainy day.
いや、旦那さんはいらっしゃらないんですか？
ああ、お父ちゃんかい？そうだね。行くときは急なもんさ。去年死んじまってね。それから私一人で暮らしてるよ。
Aww. Dark Michiru. That's gotta be like a knife to the heart. She loved her dad. She cared about him.
家族で過ごしてたときは、狭い狭いって文句を言ってたけど、一人になるとこんなに広いんだね。持て余しちゃうよ。
Mom chuckles at her own joke, but I know how much she loved Dad. She has to be forcing herself.
ご家族は旦那さんだけだったんですか？
ああ、娘がいたよ。とっても可愛くて優しい子でね。生きてたらあんたと同じくらいなはずさ。その子がいなくなってからお父ちゃんは人が変わったみたいに仕事に没頭してね。過労でぽっくりさ。
Man. He was trying to be the brave one. I don't like how aggressive he was and how fatalistic he was, but he had to kind of be the reasonable person at the same time. And it was tearing him up inside too. I can't imagine. And then making the choice to like let her go. And probably just told his wife that she just kind of passed on her own, like, and kept it secret because he didn't want to burden her with that pain. Probably just tore him up. Probably ripped him to pieces every day.
何かで気持ちを紛らわせていないと耐えられなかったんだろうね。もちろん私だって同じ気持ちだった。
I bet.
そりゃ白髪も増えるわけだよ。
そうなんですか。寂しいですね。
Mom answers, that I was, her voice like a sigh.
そりゃ寂しいさ。だけどね、お父ちゃんも娘も心の中でしっかり生きてるからね。
Aww.
だから私は一人じゃないんだよ。
Thumping her own chest, Mom smiles brightly at me. Not knowing what to say, I just sip my tea.
こんなことをお伺いするのも失礼かと思いますが。
I force the question out of my mouth. It feels like it's leaping headfirst into Niagara Falls.
娘さんと旦那さんは仲良かったんですか？
仲？そりゃいいに決まってるよ。親子だものね。この子ったら変なこと言うね。そうだ。せっかくだからいいもの見せてあげるよ。
You know, these are moments that really tell me, again, that the writer or writers, they really, really were people who lived lives and paid attention, because I feel like I've had this conversation with ladies before. For whatever reason, sometimes when you find the empty nesters, even if you're just like walking through the neighborhood, or when I was doing door-to-door stuff or whatever, like you'll find these people who would literally just invite you in and they'd listen to you whatever you wanted to say and give you their attention, but you can feel that they just needed someone to talk to because their life had become very lonely and very isolated, and they didn't want to be a bother to people, so they didn't want to like go and bother neighbors or like beg their kids to come by or something, but having another adult around to talk to occasionally it can be a heaven send. And so yeah, it might seem weird that she just invites Michiru in and is sitting down and chatting with her about all this personal stuff, but no. When people are alone, they want to talk, and this is stuff that she's probably wanted to talk about for a while. And my experience has been that sometimes you need a stranger to just dump on, to just say what is going on in your heart, and the words that you never felt like you got to say to the people who you really wanted to say them to. But if you don't say them, they'll explode. So you find someone who, for whatever reason, trustworthy face, reminds you of a loved one, or just someone who's given you the kindness to pass the time with you, and you just share and you talk. So like what she's doing, it might seem really weird and abrupt, but it's very, very real for people who are living alone, for those who are the ones who have survived past the lives of their loved ones. It's very real. And I think it's a testament and a good reminder to like call your grandparents, your parents, spend time with them. And even like when you find somebody who starts just talking your ear off, if you don't have anything pressing going on, let them talk a little bit. It might not seem like a big deal to you, but you might find it could make their entire week, just being able to talk a little. Mom leaves the room, but returns only a moment later. There's a string of worn-out old paper cranes in her hands.
これね、娘が入院した時にお
Aww.
父ちゃんが徹夜で作ったのよ。
I don't know if, like, I always was told that the story was a Japanese one. I know, I'm sure it at least is somewhat, but I remember being told the story of the growing up, like make 1,000 or 10,000 paper cranes and a wish will come true kind of thing.
それなのにあの人ったら渡す時になったら恥ずかしいって言ってね。シャイだったんだね、あんな顔して。まったく。まだ物置にたくさんあるよ。千羽鶴だなんて日本的だしロマンティックだね。でももう何年も前の話だよ。
Wow. I touch the cranes with the tip of my fingers. The paper's damp and a little moldy. Even so, my heart fills up with warmth. Just imagining my stern-faced dad hunched over a table making origami makes me want to laugh. Not his style at all.
私もお父ちゃんも娘のことを心から愛していたよ。救ってやれなくて本当に申し訳ないと思ってる。夢みたいなことをね、バカみたいなことって分かってるけど、
Aww.
もしももう一度あの子に会えるなら謝りたいよ。親なのに子供を最後まで守ってやれなくてごめんってね。幸せにしてやれなくてごめんって。
It's very beautiful. And like I said, like, it might even seem unbelievable to some of you, but as someone who has worked with older people, good example, I mentioned before how I grew up in a very conservative area and I went to church growing up. Our specific congregation had a lot of very elderly people, and I would go to their houses and help them. With my dad, we would do, yard work and shovel driveways. We'd deliver food and just acts of service. It was something that was a big part of like my childhood growing up. It's something I didn't appreciate. It was always a distraction, kept me away from my friends, but in hindsight, I really enjoyed it because I got to meet a lot of people, and the older people would do this kind of stuff. They would talk about this, and they would see their own kids and grandkids in you, and sometimes they just tell you what they wish they could have told them. The opportunities they missed out on for whatever reason. It was a real thing. Like, this isn't cheesy or hammy at all. It's so real. It's kind of terrifying. I still remember some of the people who were in that church growing up were World War II veterans. And I remembered listening to them talk about those stories and now realizing that they're all gone. And that someday I'm going to be one of the few people on the planet who got to sit and listen to, airborne divisions in Germany and troops that stormed the beaches of Okinawa and, like legacies of these incredible, selfless and terrifying battles and wars and the sacrifices that they made, and then had to come back home and just try and be a normal person again. And I got to hear those stories in person. And that's not really possible anymore now. That's crazy. Wow.
ちゃんと愛してやれなくてごめんって。ダメな親でごめんねって。ごめん。
Watching Mom struggle on the brink of tears, I'm overcome by the need to do something, anything. I reach out and take her hand in mine. She's surprised for a moment, but soon gently squeezes back, her hand wrinkled and dry, but still just as warm and comforting as I remember.
私がこんなこと言うのも変だけど、きっと娘さんは幸せだったと思います。だってこんなに愛されているじゃないですか。謝るなんてそんなの変です。
All of a sudden, there's a thick lump in the bottom of my throat at the words I can't find their way past. Mom leans over and begins thumping me softly on the back.
私なんて言えばいいのか。でも謝ることなんて。
Mom's stroking my hair just like she used to, but the tears won't stop.
あんたは優しい子だね。ありがとう。 そう思うと少し楽になるよ。
I think it'd be so cool if she told her, like, hey, like, obviously she can't say, hey, I'm your daughter, but what she could say, like, no, I'm the girl whom was saved by your daughter. But the thing is, like, her mom might not know that. And with that, the flow of words stops entirely. I throw myself into my mom's arms, bawling like a baby. She seems a little taken aback, but gently embraces me. In the end, I can't do a thing.
ごめんなさい。私、失礼させていただきます。
My voice twisted beyond recognition. I somehow managed to croak out the words.
何か用事があったんじゃないのかい？ごめんね。私があんな話しちまったばかりに。
It takes everything I have just to shake my head. It's not your fault, Mom. None of this is. I'm the one who needs to apologize. There are so many things I want to say, but I can't get any of it across. I don't want to leave like this, but the words won't come. Even though I might never see her again. Even though this might be the very last time I hear her voice, all I can do is cry.
それじゃあね。気をつけて帰るんだよ。
Mom, The words just won't come. There's no good.
実は私、娘さんのお友達だったんです。それでここに来たんです。
Wait, is that Light Michiru popping in? Is she doing what Dark Michiru always did? Oh, that's fun. Wow. What?
泣いてしまってごめんなさい。でも、会えてよかったです。
My mouth's moving all by itself, speaking for me, but it's not unpleasant. I know Michiru must be doing this for me.
おや、そうかい。あの子のお友達かい。
Mom smiles, something like relief in her eyes, and mouth keeps moving.
私、まだおばさまとお話ししたいことたくさんあります。涼しいお願いかもしれませんが、お手紙送ってもいいですか？
おやおや、もちろんだともさ。時間ならたっぷり余ってるからね。うちにはパソコンがないけど、それでもいいかい？
I do recommend that, by the
今
way.
時の子はペンで手紙を書くなんてことをしないんだろう？
It was a fun thing that my first real girlfriend and I did is when we both went on trips to different places, we decided for fun. We were both writers, so it was part of the reason why we liked it, but we wrote physical letters to each other rather than email. And like it's something kind of special about like a handwritten letter. It takes a lot of time obviously between the two, but it meant that we could also stay focused on what we were working on and not always obsessed about talking to each other. It was a fun thing. And the nice thing is it gives you something to hold on to. I still have all the letters as keepsake, even though like things didn't work out between us. It's almost like an interesting, almost like a journal of what happened over those years. It's pretty cool.
ちゃんと書きます。だから待っててください。必ず送りますから。
ありがとうね。住所はガーディナ。
大丈夫。分かってますから。
そうかい。
それでは失礼します。また。
ああ、またね。気をつけて帰るんだよ。
I do love that though. Part of the best part about this is that Light Michiru can now see what Dark Michiru is doing. Because Light Michiru was always retreating to the dark out of fear, but now she stands in the light and the two of them can kind of share. Definitely odd. It's gonna be interesting, but at the same time, it reminds me of those conjoined twins. There's those conjoined twins, and like one of them recently got married, but like they would have like separate dating lives, and you know, like they couldn't be separated, but they also were the individual people. It's kind of the same thing with Michiru and Dark Michiru. Mom petted my head one last time. I thought I'd never see her again, but Yuji-kun brought me to her. I thought our relationship would end with a one visit, but Michiru helped me. I wanted to thank them, but the only things that came out of my mouth were weird, strangled little sounds. On the road outside the house, after making sure Mom wasn't watching, I cried my heart out.
大丈夫。これでいいんだよ。
Michiru reassures me. Yuji-kun stroked my head many times, just like Mom had. The familiar smells of my hometown and the scent of the kind-hearted friends mingled together in a pleasant, comforting breeze that seemed to be blowing from the future. Dang. And so a curtain falls on the story of two peculiar girls. The girl who shut herself up inside a box and waited for rescue is gone. Michiru's come to understand that she's the only one who can save herself. Of course, people can't live alone. We need the help of others. But what really matters is finding our own road and the strength of will to walk it. Human beings don't have wings on their backs. We have no choice but to make our way forward with the two legs we were given. Life is just a long series of such small steps. Oh man, you can accomplish a lot if you just start taking those steps. Even a little every day. There are plenty of things still undone, plenty of problems still unresolved, but that's inevitable. Anyway, wouldn't wrap things up too neatly to be a little boring. From now on, Michiru and I will be dealing with the problems that come our way together. The world isn't so complicated. Walk forward and you'll find the future. Turn back and you'll find your memories. Cut off a piece, you've got a story. That's just one small part of one such a tale.
ねえ、気持ちいいね、風。
True enough. I can understand why you love this place so much.
過去みたいに言わないで。今でも好きよ。
I see. However, I would be remiss not to mention that a particularly thorny difficulty has arisen in the aftermath of this incident. Am I to blame for this? Is Michiru? Or perhaps the other girl? I wouldn't mind taking the time for a thorough analysis of the matter, but in any case, I'm currently at my wit's end.
そうかな。ここ。
Great.
そこまでいいものかな。
Oh no, that is a problem. They're just both here all the time. So, yeah, are we dating both of them now? And if we're not, like, can we have privacy? Whoa, that's weird. Huh.
ねえ、ユージくん。それよりさ、もっと違う場所行かない？ちょっと待ってよ、出てこないでよね。今、私はユージとデートしてるの。わかる？人の邪魔はしないって約束でしょ？だからおとなしくしてなさいってば。
She has legitimate multiple personalities now. Oh, that's gonna complicate things a lot.
だって君のセンス悪いんだもん。かといってさ、ユージくんに任せると走ってばっかりだし。本当にバランス悪いよね、二人とも。
Okay, so we're not dating Dark Michiru at all. But she's very much still a part of this relationship. Oh, that's weird.
そんな指摘しなくていいのに。ねえ、ユージ、この場所退屈？
Well, I suppose boring would be one way to describe it, yes.
だったら先に行ってよね。他の場所にしたのに。
Well, the location doesn't matter. Anywhere's fun when I'm with you. Thank you, Yuuji. Girls, please, if the one of you who's here, I don't know where you are, but maybe you're here, right? Like, here's the thing, like, or I guess it could apply to guys too. But listen, if for most guys, it's if we're spending time with you, it's because we want to be with you. It doesn't have to be anything special. Granted, it's fun going on adventures, but you know, frankly, you're the best part of that. Whenever you're dating somebody, that person is the reason you're there. You do fun stuff because you want to keep things engaging and you don't want them to get bored with you, but truth be told, it's very rare for it to be so boring as to be actually like a drag. Just going on a walk, sitting down, having a conversation, being around each other, even if you were like on each other's phones, but being next to somebody whom you care about and occasionally sharing a meme, that's such a good way to spend my day. I love that so much. It doesn't matter. Anywhere's fun when I'm with you. You goober.
何浮かれてんのよ。ユージ君は口がうまいからお世辞に決まってるでしょ。嘘！そうなのユージ。じゃないわよ。何よその疑問系。意味わかんない。やだの。
As you can see, both personalities are not capable of emerging at the same time. A nasty side effect of my improvised hypnosis, perhaps? Then again, apparently Michiru took over the conversation for the girl on the visit to California, so maybe that's what did it. Whatever the case may be, there's no changing the fact that this is a major pain in the butt.
だってさ、あんたなんて私が大事にしてた宝物の中身あっさりしてるしさ。あれはちょっとひどかったじゃない。
The rocks.
君が捨ててって言ったからでしょ。それに本当は捨ててないよ。部屋の天井裏を見てごらん。ちゃんとあるから。
Oh.
そ そうなの？そうだよ。私は昔から大事なものは屋根裏に隠しておく癖があるんです。君みたいに考えなしに捨てたりしないの。そんなしっかりしてるアピールしてるけど、お母さんを前にして何も言えなかったじゃない。そりゃそうでしょ。あの時は緊張してたし。ああでも手伝ってくれてありがとうね。そんな急に素直にお礼を言われると、まあ
And we're here too, right, Yuuji? Michiru looks up at the sky, her expression slightly bashful. Actually, that's an interesting thought. It's almost like I'm the Dark Michiru to Yuuji, right? Where like he's doing his own stuff and I'm just kind of passively observing, but then occasionally I go and like interfere and make a choice, right? Is that what all visual novels are? Are we just like the personality hiding in the heart of the individual, occasionally manifesting ourselves when they reach a point of indecision? Oh, that's kind of a cool analogy now that I think about it.
でもさ、なんていうの？
Excuse me, my throat.
今度また会いに行こうよ。私もあのお母さんのこと好きだし、優しそうな顔してるし。何しろあんたがいなかったら私は今生きてないかもしれない。そのお礼も兼ねてね。それまでに私消えちゃったりしてね。ダメ！それはダメ！これからはずっと一緒にいよう。何の偶然かはわからないけど、この体に二人の心が残ってる。この体は私だけのものでもあんただけのものでもない。
Again, it really reminds me of those conjoined twins. It's kind of what we're dealing with here. It's a little more convenient, obviously, but at the same time, it's going to be such an interesting way to live.
これは二人のもの。これからは私が助けられるばっかりじゃなくて、あんたのことを助けてあげるからね。待ってなさい。
Michiru drives out a finger to emphasize the point, but with nowhere in particular to aim it, she ends up pointing it at herself.
だってほら、あんたは私の親友でしょ。
And they're best friends. They literally can't leave each other.
そうね。まあ君を一人にさせておくと勝手に暴走するし、バカだし、私がいなきゃダメでしょうね。何その言い方、ひどい。君がしっかりするまでちゃんと私が助けてあげるから大丈夫。君の真似なら得意だからね。何よ、あんたに私のこのスーパーナチュラルツンデレができるっていうの？
Oh, you doing that again?
できるわよ。簡単。今やってみせましょうか。じゃあユージくん。
The conversation seems to have taken on a highly problematic turn. I'd love to pretend I hadn't heard, but that's just not a realistic option right now. Instead, I grunt out a reluctant half-groan of a response. Yes?
今からツンデレするから、どっちがやったか当ててね。
Oh my gosh. Yeah, understood. Shouldn't be a problem.
わかる？ちゃんと見分けることできる？
Of course. Enough with the dramatic build-up. Just do it already.
わかった。いくね。せーの。あんたのことなんて大好きなんだからね。
Okay, don't have the damn clue. Michiru stares intently in my face, her eyes filled with confident expectation. God knows what's going to happen to me if I get this wrong. Left with no alternative, I pull out a trump card. I love you too. After a moment of bewilderment, a big grin spreads across her face.
嬉しいです。
Hey, Michiru. No telling how long this trick will keep working. Have to figure out something before she catches on. he's like, oh, bullet dodge, but I gotta figure it out quick.
やれやれ。だからユージ君の口のうまさにごまかされてるって。
I'll have you know, if I have any control of this side of the formula, it's absolutely genuine.
ちょっとユージ、それ本当だったら許さないんだからね。
Aww. Little outro. I'm guessing it's just the credits, but it's still... Oh, fun. How to summarize my thoughts on the matter? Not too sure. I think it was a beautiful story. It really was. Like, it's interesting because of all the games I've played, this was one of the most decisive we've seen, where people were commenting and saying whether they loved or hated certain routes, and it was all over the place. There were plenty of people who loved Michiru's route. There were plenty of people who said they enjoyed Michiru's route, but it wasn't their favorite. And there were plenty of people who said that it was their least favorite of all of them, for sure. And so to have such a plethora of examples, and then this be the only ending I've got, I don't have much to compare to as of yet, but I related so hard to this character development, to Michiru, to Dark Michiru, and even to Yuuji in many cases, that it's gonna be a really hard one to beat for me. It's not perfect. It has its flaws, but that's the thing, is like all of them are gonna have flaws, and that's kind of part of what makes it so good. Michiru as a character is so flawed, but in ways that make a lot of sense, that are reasonable and understandable based on the crazy circumstances she's been through. It really leaps out of the realm of reality a lot for this story. Like, it really, like two people, one body, the traumatic past, and being as functional as she was, all things considered. It's just... and then like the 3 days in the casket, we definitely had a lot of discussions about that. But when push comes to shove, I'm ultimately looking at this as a narrative of a story. Essentially, it's a fantasy, and when you really strip that away and you look at it as a narrative story, as an exploration of concepts, ideas, characters, motivations, and like what their interests are and like why they do what they do, it makes so much sense. It's actually kind of terrifying how real it gets, and how well I think it actually tackled complicated issues such as self-harm, anxiety, depression, and ultimately, unaliving. Like, this idea of what is it like feeling these types of systems, and also like what can reasonably be done. Remember, Yuuji ultimately he did this crazy casket thing, but the idea was that she needed to find the strength in herself to really decide what she wanted, and that's what mattered. And I think that that's really what it's true. It's like people can help. It was like I said towards the end, people can help each other, but you have to pull yourself out yourself, and that's such a powerful message.
こんにちは。お元気ですか？先日は突然お伺いして申し訳ありませんでした。
This is her letter to her mom.
急な訪問なのに快く私を迎え入れてくれたことを深く感謝しています。娘さんはおばさまのことをとても愛していたと思います。もちろん旦那さんのこともです。でも年頃になると恥ずかしくて、そういったことが面と向かって言えなくなる時期があるのです。私にはいつもご両親への感謝の気持ちを話してくれていましたよ。娘さんはこんなことを言っていました。パパとママに手を引かれていった遊園地が忘れられないと。そこはとてもカラフルな世界で、みんなが心の底から笑っていた。甘いポップコーンの香りと空に飛んでいく風船の鮮やかな赤。近づいてきたキャラクターが大きくて怖くて泣いてしまったりとか、疲れてパパの背中で眠ってしまったこととか、お土産のチョコのクランチを帰りの車の中で全部食べてしまって叱られたこととか、その全部が宝物だと愛しそうに話してくれました。
It's true. The stupid things, like, it's so interesting, the little memories that we cling to as our favorite memories or cherished memories when we were young. It's really weird, the ones that end up sticking.
子供と大人の間の時期は感謝を素直に伝えることに抵抗があります。だけどそこから遠く離れてしまうと、自分のいた場所がどれだけ大切でどれだけ幸せだったかということが
Amen to
痛い
that.
ほどわかるのです。
Exactly. Every day of my life, I reflect on like the cool and amazing adventures and memories I built, the family I got to grow up around so close and being able to spend time with, and the places I got to visit so frequently, despite the fact that like my parents weren't wealthy. but they made sure that we did a lot and had adventures and chances to grow and learn. And I'm so grateful for it. Even at the time, I literally seemed like I could care less. But now it's like, I look back and I'm like, wow, each and every one of those was such an important part of my life.
ここからは私のお話です。私は今、優しいお友達や素敵な恋人と一緒にいて、みんなに囲まれて幸せに暮らしています。おばさまとは遠く離れているけど、私にとって私の世界を構成する大事なお友達のうちの一人なんです。お友達だなんて言って気を悪くしたらごめんなさい。今、娘さんとおばさまは遠く離れた場所にいるけれど、きっとおばさまのことを忘れたことは一日もないと思います。そして娘さんは今幸せに暮らしていると思います。長くなってしまったので、この辺りで今回はおしまいにしておきます。またお手紙を書いていいですか？まだまだ話したいことがたくさんあります。おばさまも、もし退屈な時間があったら、私にお手紙を書いてください。
Gosh, she just made her whole life. That lady, that lonely mom she's got a whole new reason to keep moving forward now.
おばさまがどんな風に暮らしているのか、すごく興味があります。それではまた。日本より愛を込めて。
Aww.
確かによく書けてるけど、ルール違反じゃない？今日は私とユージのデートの日でしょ？わかってるってば。でもどうしても今日中に書き上げておきたかったから。まあ、それは許すわよ。ロスタイム扱いしてもいいわよ。でもちょっと聞きたいんですけど、この素敵な恋人って誰のこと？まず、君の恋人は私の恋人じゃないの？なわけないでしょ！ユージは私の恋人なのに。
He's mine!
そうですか。何その含みのある感じ？別に。
Hey, get a move on in there. Don't be late unless you feel like running again.
ほら、今の聞いた？もし走ることになったら、あんたがやりなさいよね。
You run instead.
わかった。あとは封をするだけだから。私はもう寝るから。封して送っておいてね。絶対忘れないでね。わかってるわよ。わかってるってば。はい、おやすみおやすみ。おやすみなさい。
I could feel her closing her eyes and sinking into sleep. Since we accepted each other, we picked up a bunch of new tricks like that. These days, I can feel her moving around inside me. 3 minutes until scheduled time of assembly. I'm going to make you both run, by the way. Timeliness is a group responsibility.
ちょっと待ってってば！
I take the envelope and begin folding her letter, then pause. Grab a pen to scratch a few lines at the very bottom of the page.
推進と。
For some reason, I remember the way she hid my treasures. When I slid the corner tile free from the dorm room ceiling, my diaries and photos came tumbling down along with my treasured rocks. Maybe. My patience is at an end. I'm leaving you behind. Next time, get moving 5 minutes before you think you need to.
待ってってば！手紙出しに一緒に行こうよ！
That's cute, though. P.S.
おばさまがどんな風に暮らしているのかすごく興味があります。それではまた日本より愛を込めて。あらあら、あの子ったら本当に親切ね。こんなおばさんの相手してくれるなんて。
I love this. This is such a cool way to end it.
追伸？急に字が汚くなってるけど、どうしたのかしら。娘さんの部屋が昔と同じままだとしたら、天井裏を探してみてください。何かあるかもしれません。天井裏？どれどれ見てみましょうかね。 おやおや、これはまた。
Aww. Aww. Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. Oh, I love that. What a cool way to end. It's just doing it. It's doing the intro again. It's beautiful though. My gosh, that's such a cool like postscript ending there, right? Like just the way to capstone the story. Beautiful. Absolutely fantastic. Man, that's the thing that's kind of scaring me though, is that like there's so many of you who say that this was like your least favorite route or like you're like far from your favorite route. And it's like this one was like, oh, so good. It makes me really wonder what other great treasures I'm about to find. Anything else? Or is that really going to be the capstone of it all? What a great way to end that though. Yep.
グリザイアの果実
That's where we're going to end things for today. That was so good. And look, it's not a short episode at all. I rambled my way through the rest of it. That was beautiful. So well done. Yeah, that's going to be tough to beat. I've got to admit. Now, I'm going to assume that I can load a save before, like, all the serial choices were being made. But then again, I guess, like, you need to do choices leading up to events, right? Like, I don't know. I'm guessing what I really should do is I should, like, decide what route I'm going to go down next. And then kind of just look at a, like, non-spoiler guide and make sure I get to the right place. So we'll have to see how this goes. You know, I still want to know maybe what you think would be the best route to do. Don't tell me spoilers, obviously. I'll take into consideration what you say. I've got a good idea of where I'm going to go, so we'll have to explore that when we get to it. But for now, we'll just play it by ear. We'll see how it goes. But I got some time. I got time to figure that out. So thank you so much for being here. It was a beautiful story. I really enjoyed Michiru's route. It'll be a tough one to beat for me, honestly. I'm pretty biased, of course, because there's a lot in that story that was really spoke to my soul. But yeah, that'll be good. Also, I do want to check real quick. Something to be clarified. Is there a true route or a true ending that only unlocks after you've done all the routes? Or is that not the case for this story? Sometimes they have them, sometimes they don't. I get the impression it doesn't, but maybe there is a canonized ending that's established later, because I know that there are more games. And it's one of those situations where I'm guessing this was made to be a standalone, but when it was really successful and there's a lot of fan interest, they made future installments. So knowing that, just like, is there a penultimate like true route or kind of like a final unlock route? Because I might be willing to go down such a route if it exists after like, I play all the other routes on my own. But yeah, anyway, just let me know about that. Other than that, thank you so much for being here. Hope you enjoyed. Love to hear your thoughts about Michiru's route as a whole. And again, keep in mind, I'll also talk about it again when I do the rap party. At the end of this series, when we get to like the final conclusion after I've done everything else in the game, I'll do a story. I'll break down all the routes and my thoughts on every one of them, and I'll revisit ones like Michiru's route that I've already done, and I talk about it again, especially in context with everything else. So this isn't the last you've heard of me about my impressions of the game and the route, and I'm going to make sure you hear everything you want to hear. So don't stress about that. Even if I don't show every route on the channel, I will experience them all on my own, and I'll be able to talk about them at the grand ending of this entire series. So looking forward to that. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel. It means the world to me, and yeah, let's jump into the next great story together. So until next video watching me, I've seen me next. I'll see you there.